Hey everyone, I'm going to show you how to do a simple glitter tumbler from start to finish. So as always, we've started with a prepped tumbler. It's the most important part of your project. Here I'm just using some cleaner to make sure that there's no residue left over on the tumbler so that everything sticks the way it should. I'm using the Aurora 3-in-1 paint. This is the bubble gum, and look at it. It is gorgeous. I'm using the soft synthetic brush to start with, just to show you how easily it does work. And then I'm going to switch to this soft makeup brush that I have on my website as well as the other one. They both work really well. They spread the paint perfectly, and the paint goes on so nicely. After I've done the full coats, got the whole entire tumbler done, I'm going to put it on the my hang thing to dry, and I'm going to let it dry for, I don't know, 20 minutes to half an hour, and then I will put on a second coat just to make sure that I've got a nice good coverage on it. You also want to make sure that the color that you're using as your base coat is close to the color of your tumbler, so that way if you miss any spots of your glitter, it won't be as noticeable because the base coat is the same color. After the second coat of the Aurora paint is dry, I'm going to use the Helios glitter glue, and I'm going to use my soft synthetic brush this time to apply it. You want to apply it in a fairly thin layer. You want to spread it out good. You want to make sure you don't have any big lumps or paint lines as they go down, because you want your glitter to lay smooth. So the smoother your glitter glue is, the smoother your glitter will go on. You don't need a really thick coat for the glitter to adhere. This stuff is amazing, and your glitter is going to stick really great. After I've done that, I'm going to add the glitter. I'm going to add the glitter right away. You can wait a few minutes if you want, but I never do. I just add it right away when I'm using the Helios glue. So I'm going to apply my glitter, and I'm going to apply it fairly generously and just knock off the excess until I've got the tumbler completely covered. You can see already how well it's sticking. So pretty. I'll put some, make sure I do the bottom as well. After your glitter tumbler has dried for approximately, I usually wait for about 20 minutes for the glitter to set in. Then I'm going to use parchment paper. You want to smoosh your glitter down. Smooshing just means that you're pressing the glitter into the glue. That way it's not going to have a lot of glitter falling off. Now I roll the tumbler very gently. I use my hands first of all to press the glitter into the glue, and then I'll give it just a slight roll a little bit and press it down. You can see here how hardly any glue or glitter has come off the cup. So now I'm going to let it finish setting. After smooshing it, I've let my tumbler dry for about 30 minutes. And now I'm going to seal the glitter in. There still will be some loose pieces in there, but if you've done a really good job of smooshing, then your glue is going to go on nice and smooth. You can see here that the glue kind of absorbs into the glitter, but I'm just going to put a nice even coat of the Helios glitter glue over top of the glitter, and then that way I've got a nicely sealed tumbler, and when I go to apply my do my next step, I'm not going to have glitter falling off my tumbler. You will notice that the glue is white, and that's okay because it's going to dry crystal clear when it's done. We will let it dry for 1 to 2 hours before moving on. So you can see now that the glue has dried crystal clear. So we're going to start by adding our top coat. This is the Hyperion gloss top coat, and you'll see that I'm generously applying it to the tumbler, and I'm using my brush to brush it down. Now when you brush it, you're going to want to make sure that you're gently gliding it over the tumbler. I'm not brushing it in hard. I'm not applying a lot of pressure. I'm just gently gliding the brush over. I'm using about 7.5 mils in my cup, and then I'm just going to watch it turn and make sure that there are no areas that have pooled or are heavier. Okay, I've let my cup sit now for 2 hours, and I'm going to apply my second coat. This time I'm using my bottle of Hyperion to apply it. This is not for beginners, but I wanted to show you that it is possible to put it directly on from the bottle. You're going to apply it so that you have a nice even finish on your tumbler. You'll see that it is milky. It's supposed to be milky, and you want to make sure that you don't have any pooling. And again, remember, you're not overworking it. You're just gliding your brush over nice and easy and making sure you have no pooling. So now we're going to go on to our third coat. I'm back to using the measured this time. So every time you put on a layer, you're going to see that it's going to go on easier and easier because it's not soaking into the glitter. But every time it's always going to have that milky white finish, and it will dry crystal clear. So we finished our third layer of Hyperion top coat, and we've let it dry for another 2 hours. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sand it down. We're going to give it a nice level sand. This is so we want to make sure that there's no hills and valleys in your glitter or in your top coat, because we want everything to stay smooth so that it's a nice even finish. So you're just going to use your 400 grit sandpaper. I wrap mine around a wooden block just so that it stays flat, because otherwise you're not really sanding down, you're just going to keep the hills and valleys in there. So you want to make sure you have something flat. So just give it a good sand. You want to make sure that you do your rims as well to get any excess glitter that might be sticking up. After you've sanded it, you're going to clean it off. You can use just a damp rag, or use lint free, and then or you can use a cleaner that I'm doing as well. But you want to make sure that you've got all your sanding grit off of your tumbler before your next step. This is where I'll also clean the inside of my tumbler. I'll use an X-Acto knife to get any excess off, but I want you to notice here how the Hyperion is peeling off so easily, and that's because the inside of your tumbler is not prepped. So if you don't prep your tumbler well, this is essentially what will happen to your tumbler. So you want to make sure that your tumbler is fully prepped. So after you've made sure that you've cleaned off your tumbler well with a surface cleaner or a damp lint-free cloth, we're going to want to put on another coat of your Hyperion. So this is over your sanding coat, so it's going to go on nice and flat. You can see here how easily it's going on. I'm still using 7.5 mils for this cup, but you'll find that you might use a tiny little bit less. It might not take the full because it's not soaking in as much anymore. But you want to make sure that you've got no pooling, nice straight finish, and it's still going to be a little bit milky. Remember, don't overwork your Hyperion. Just glide it on and then let it sit for 2 hours. After your tumbler has sat for 2 hours, and also remember, you only need to really keep it on the turner for 1 hour. And that way it helps the Hyperion level out. So I'm going to put on a second coat. Again, as I keep saying, you're going to notice that it's milky, and it's supposed to be like that. And don't overwork it. Put on a full layer and let it sit for 2 hours. I've decided I'm going to add a decal to this glitter tumbler. It's been dried for 2 hours. You'll see how nice and shiny it is. It's nice and smooth, so we're ready to apply a decal. You put your decal in the water just to give it enough time so that it just starts to move off the paper. You don't want it to rip, but you don't want it to slide off super easy as well, because it makes it harder to apply. You're going to add water to your tumbler so that it slides on easily, and then you're just going to hold on with your thumb to the one side of your decal and then gently slide the paper out from underneath it. It goes on nice and flat, and then you're just going to use a damp cloth to get any wrinkles out that might be in it. You're going to want to make sure that your decal has dried. You don't want it to be wet when you're applying your Hyperion, so let it dry. It depends on how wet you got it, how big your decal is. I don't even think I had to wait half an hour for mine to be dry enough to do this. So you're just going to do as you've been doing all along. You're just going to add your Hyperion top coat. You're not going to overwork it. You're going to glide it on with a brush. You're not applying pressure, and it's still going to have that milky finish. But you can see that the milkiness is not quite as easy to see as it was before, but that's okay. It's still a little bit milky, and you're going to let it do its magic. And then you're going to let it sit for 2 hours. So I've let the first coat dry for 2 hours, and when I touch it, it feels like it doesn't even really need another coat over the decal, but I feel like at least a second coat for sure will be added protection, and it certainly won't hurt by any means. So I'll put on another coat, and then after the 2 hours, I will decide whether or not to put a third coat on. So that's about it. If you follow this tutorial and just follow the steps, and remember 3.5 mils per every 10-ounce tumbler to add your Hyperion. Don't overwork it, and wait for it to dry 2 hours in between coats.